How to translate word problems into equations for systems. Imagine trying to solve a puzzle where you only have words describing what's happening. Your goal is to turn those words into math so you can find the answer. That's what translating word problems into equations for systems is all about. It might seem tricky at first, but once you understand the steps, it becomes much easier. First, read the problem carefully. Look for all the details and what the question asks you to find. Highlight or underline key parts that mention quantities, prices, distances, or times. These clues help you know what to focus on. Next, define your variables. Pick letters like X and Y to stand for unknown amounts. For example, if the problem talks about two types of items, assign one variable to each. If it mentions the number of apples and oranges, let X be the number of apples and Y be the oranges. Then write down what the problem says in words. For example, if it says the total number of items is 20, write the number of apples plus the number of oranges equals 20. This is your first word equation. Now turn those words into algebraic equations. Words like total, sum, or combined usually mean addition. Words like difference or less than mean subtraction. For example, if the problem says each apple costs $1 and each orange costs 50 cents, and the total cost is $10, you can write $1 times the number of apples plus 50 cents times the number of oranges equals $10. Using your variables, that becomes 1 plus times x plus 0.50 plus times y is equal to 10. Repeat this process for all the relationships in the problem. If the problem involves two conditions, you'll end up with two or more equations. These form a system of equations. The system shows all the rules that must be true at the same time. Once you have your system, you can solve it using methods like substitution or elimination. Substitution involves solving one equation for one variable and plugging it into the other. Elimination adds or subtracts equations to eliminate a variable. Graphing is another option, where you draw the equations and find where they cross. After finding the values of the variables, double-check your work. Substitute your answers back into the original words to see if they make sense. For example, if you found that x equals 10 and y equals 10, see if these numbers satisfy all the conditions in the problem. This process works for many types of problems, like mixtures, distances, ages, or costs. Breaking the problem into parts, defining variables, writing word equations, and translating those into algebra makes solving much simpler. For example, if a store sells two types of candies, and you know the total candies and total cost, you can set up two equations, one for the total number of candies and one for the total price. Solving that system will tell you how many of each candy you have. Practicing these steps helps you become confident in turning words into equations. It makes solving real-world problems with systems of equations easier and more straightforward.